is a 1941 P08 holster, and these belt loops almost looks like they were machine stitched on. How they did it, I don't know. Cylinder arm machine's not getting in there, that's for sure. But I need to put new loops on it. I'm going to show you how to make those loops and everything that goes along with it. So we're going to first take these off, get everything cleaned up, because that needs to be done before we go very far, because the thread in there is in rough. It's going to be hard to get out. I may wind up splitting this. As much as I don't want to, I might have to split it just to be able to get that cleaned up in there. Some stuff is really difficult to predict how it's going to go, so I'm not going to try. Some of the customer's notes, put that in there. That'll be their bag. But most of the stitching's in really good shape on this one. Just these belt loops. So, let's see what we can do here. There. Man, that's a lot of thread. They didn't clean the old thread out either. So I'm pretty certain I'm going to have to split this just so I can get in there and work on that. Fortunately, the holster's in pretty darn good shape. There's some finish cracking up here. Pretty common on these. The rest of it, the body here, looks really good. So I wouldn't feel too terrible about splitting it. We also need to make a new buckle strap for it. So I'm going to take that off too. There. I will be able to mark all the holes and everything. It's going to be very nice. It's always nice when you have a complete piece to make your pattern from. Sometimes they're in two pieces. You got to get it as close as you can. I'm very fortunate in this one that I have the whole thing. And we'll look at the back. It crosses over at the bottom. Here's our knot, is right here. It's still there, so I know that's where it is. And that's what I'm going to do. I will start here, stitch down. It crosses over inside as opposed to between the layers. Oops. So it crosses over right here. We'll do our crossover, come back up. Or we'll start this side, stitch down, bind it, cross over, and then we'll come back up. And our knot is right here between the layers. I always like when there's enough there to be able to tell where everything went. So we'll get back on this here, because this is the part that is going to be a pain. There's something metal in there. So I'm not the only one that breaks needles. I'll show that to you when I get there. Oh, where's my pliers? So this was machine sewed. And I'll hold this with my pliers. You can tell because the eye is down at the tip. There it is. The eye is down here. This is the point of the needle, and that's where it broke off in there. Don't want anybody to get hurt on it. Drop it in my old Blades bottle there. There. Now that we got all those pieces off, I need to clean all this thread out. And like I said, I think since they left all that old thread in, I'm going to see what I can do to get it out. It's going to be a little bit of a pain. If it gets to be too much work, too much trouble, I'm going to split the holster and we'll do it that way, because it's just that much easier to do. The thread pretty much looks like it's black. So nothing to worry about there. We'll just dye a piece of thread black. When they dyed this, they went down inside the holster too, by the looks of it. Interesting. I always see something different on a holster. Every single holster seems to be different. I'm going to go ahead and pick these threads. You don't need to watch that. It's very time consuming. I don't know what my customer used as a preservative on this, but it's very sticky. Which is one of the things I like about Conley's, is it doesn't leave that feeling behind. But we have to clean this area. We might as well clean the whole thing. And now let's do this thread back here. Yep, I'm definitely doing this off camera. Before I'm done picking all the threads out of this holster, I need to get some straps made. So I'm going to measure, oops, we got it out. I have this one, these are both 1941 holsters. And that's really all I need to know. So I'm going to measure the thickness of the strap on this one, since the other one was incorrect. I get 2.7 to 2.8 millimeters. $2.7 millimeters, which should put me, look at my little chart here, somewhere in that 6 to 7, favoring the 7. That should be my weight. And I'll set that one aside. Got a couple of scraps here. This is 2.2. 2. Might take me a minute to find a piece suitable. So this strap cutter is usually set to 17, 18 millimeters, which should be close enough. I may need to put a blade in this too. Alright, that should about cover it. So this is kind of thick for a belt loop, and I'm going to go ahead and get it wet first. I'm going to make my bend in it, and then I'm going to dye it. That way my dye is going to keep its color. When you dye it first and then bend it, you'll lose some of the color at the top. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to get it pretty wet, to be honest. And I'll wet the whole thing, that way it's all going to accept dye the same. And then I'll make my grooves. And I do have these, I got them a bit wet. Probably should be a little wetter, and I did cut the one for the buckle strap too, since I was at it. Let me just take, I tell you, this tool has been just stinking amazing. So I will leave a link to it on my Amazon store. where you can find this tool and many others. So it just makes really nice little bead detail, or a crease, whatever you want to call them. I call it a bead detail. Makes a nice little bead. Do it to the other ones here. And then I'm going to kind of pre-form the buckle straps. I'll get them bent over and let them sit. So I've seen this detail on holsters as far back as like 1917. So I can be reasonably certain, even though I don't see them necessarily, I can kind of catch a very faint outline right here. And that's really in a little bit here. But that's about all I can see on these. So I'm kind of going with it. I know I've showed these belt loop repairs before, so I wasn't going to show up a lot. But one of the things when I can open the side of the holster, it makes things so much easier. And I didn't have a lot of choice because of the way the old stitching was on those belt loops that were on it. I don't want to talk about them. They made me a little cranky. But in the slit here, the slit where the thread goes, that's where I hide the knot. So I can, when I can split the holster, I can kind of come in here and break a little bit of that glue loose. Now that was the one that went a little long here, and that holds that strap in. So hopefully all is good there. Looks okay. And here I left, let's see, there's the other loop. I left it a little long on the back right here to try to hide some of these other extra holes that are in here. It's not going to hide all of them. There's no way I can hide them all. I mean, you can still see some of them up here. Right up here. There's a few right here from the way they stitched that in there. I know they used a machine. I know they had to split the holster to do it. It's the only way it could have been done. Because you're not getting, there's not a machine that's got a small enough arm to get inside a holster that I know of. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I'll probably be wrong again. But belt loops installed. I gave the holster another wipe down with a little bit of Connelly's. I am going to, and my final cleaning is going to be, I'll put a little dye in with the Connelly's too. I see there's a couple of light spots here. A little dye in Connelly's is just kind of a nice way to just kind of darken those up just a touch. Makes it look a little better. But really it doesn't look bad at all. This holster's in pretty good shape, aside from where they did that really bad belt loop replacement. I think I've covered up most of the bad stitch holes. So now all I've got to do is I've got to replace this strap. Here's all my old parts for the customer. They will go in the holster when I'm done. And this is going to be pretty straightforward. We'll just start at the top. First hole here. Second hole on the holster. This one I am using just the natural colored thread, and I will dye it afterwards just on the outside. And there we go. Probably didn't get all that on camera, but that's because I was zoomed in the whole time. I'm just going to hit this now with a little black dye That should color it. I'm going to dilute it a little bit so it's not super dark, but the rest of it is pretty dark, so I'm not going to dilute it much. And then I'll just use that dye to color my Connellys. So I'll be back in a few minutes after I'm all done and show you the finished product. All done. This is a 1941 Luger holster. Came out good. Strap went on real well. Perfect fit. As usual, I had one to go from, so hard to get it wrong. The belt loops, those I didn't have one to go from, but I've got enough of them. I've got patterns for them, so it went pretty good too. Covered up most of those holes, thank God. There's some here, there's a couple here, there's a couple here. But and leaving them a little bit long on the inside here. Left them just probably 1/8 of an inch long. That helped cover up some extra holes. So hopefully, I don't like to do that because it's not period correct, but there were a lot of nasty extra stitch holes in here and I needed to cover up some of those. So I think it came out okay. So yeah, there we go. Strap's nice. Some of the there's still some of the brown showing through, but you can't get perfect every time. There we go. Another 1941 Luger holster completed. Strap went on real well. Some of the brown still showing through, but you know, we can't get it all to work out real well because without stripping the holster. And we're not going to do that because that's pretty invasive. There is some cracking in this holster on the top. There's a little bit down here. But overall, this holster is in really good shape. I was able to cover most of those extra holes that were in there from those wider straps. So I felt pretty good about that. Hopefully my customer is okay with that. I did leave these straps on the inside here just a little bit long. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. I left them a little long because it covered up some of those nasty holes. Other than that, I don't know how this video is going to be. This customer sent me 4 holsters. Of the 4, I repaired 3 of them. The 4th one, if I can find it here, has, be real gentle with it, has some pretty serious condition issues here in the front, and all it needed was a belt loop. It's got a broken belt loop, but when I've got to get down in to do these holes, I'm manipulating the front of this holster quite a bit. There's already a few spots where some of the lacquer finish is chipped off of it. I really don't, I could do it, but I really don't want to, I don't want to wreck it. I don't want to knock any more of those chips out of there. The magazine pouch has already got a hole in it. I just didn't want to take a risk of damaging it further, causing more problems with it. So I opted not to repair this one, and I explained that to my customer that due to these conditions, due to the condition of the holster, I really wasn't comfortable making those repairs. So that's the way I left that. And he was okay with that. I think he understood. But we did 2 other holsters. I don't know if I got all of these. Are going to only be in one video or if it's going to be 2. This one was just a restitch the lid and the tool pouch. The stitching was, if you looked on the inside, the stitching looked okay. But if you looked on the outside, all the stitching was missing. I don't know. It was kind of weird. And the other one, This one was not a Luger holster. This was a P35 holster, which P35 was a Browning High Power. So this was a cool holster to do, and this was just simply restitching this belt loop down. Wasn't a big deal. It was pretty quick and easy. So I may run bits of all three of these holsters into one video. It'd be a longer video, but so what? It is what it is. If you like these kind of videos, stay tuned. I've got a couple of different holsters coming up. Well, one's a magazine pouch, and the other one's a holster. I'm not sure what era it's from. It goes back a ways, but those are coming up. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you like the stuff, or don't. Hit that like button. It only takes a split second to do it, and it helps out the channel quite a bit. There is a link to my Amazon store down below for any of the tools and such you see me use in this video. Should be in there. And with that being said, y'all stay safe. God bless. I'll catch you in the next video.